And joining us right now is the athletic senior writer, Mike Sando. Mike, welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Mike, we appreciate you taking the time. And I was just saying, I don't know if you heard, but like whenever somebody makes a list, there's always fans that disagree and they yell and scream. But I said, don't yell at Mike because you're just compiling an amazing list of the votes. It's not your picks. It's what these coaches and personnel guys have said.
Absolutely. So, in my 26 years of covering the league, I've developed a lot of relationships with people. And this year we had 8 general managers, 10 head coaches, 15 coordinators, and a mix of others in front offices and coaching staffs go through all of the veteran starting quarterbacks and put them into different tiers. The tiers are ones that I've learned from talking to people in the league. What is it that separates a top tier quarterback from lesser ones? And so, it's pretty much a market analysis, right, of what the league thinks of the quarterbacks in the league and why, right? We can say the why.
Right. Mike, what I think is amazing, I mean, this article, this column that you put out every year, to me, has become the go-to, like, there's a zillion articles written about the NFL. I mean, that's not a word, actually. It's not a number, but I think there might be. But this is the most important thing I read every year. I always look forward to it. So kudos on that.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm curious about this, because to me, Patrick Mahomes is even above a tier 1. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's almost like he should be on his own tier by himself. What do you think of that?
I totally agree. I think there's degrees within a tier. And, I was so the way it came out, Patrick Mahomes, 50 out of 50 voters put him in tier 1. I was actually kind of happy that one voter put Burrow in tier 2. Not that he's not a tier 1 quarterback, but it just created a little bit of separation there because I think what Mahomes.
We lost Mike's audio.
Yeah, we try to get this fixed real quick.
Okay. Well, that's too bad.
Have we discussed this we haven't discussed this at all on the show, right?
No, we haven't. We were going to do it yesterday, but we wanted to wait because we had Mike on today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's got Deshaun at 11.
11, yeah.
So
right, we'll get into that in just a sec, but yeah.
And I wanted to ask him about Aaron Rodgers. He's got.
I was surprised he was so high.
I was really surprised.
Why is y'all? Because it's Aaron Rodgers.
But he wasn't that good last year, and he's almost 40.
So was Tom Brady when he left the Patriots and he won the Super Bowl.
He did, but you'd
rather Aaron Rodgers had a Jalen Hurts, right? Not he, but again.
That was.
But I didn't think Aaron Rodgers was that bad. I thought his receivers was bad.
Oh, come on.
They didn't drop the ball.
Did they drop it more than any other team?
Yes.
If you're that great a quarterback, you should be able to overcome that.
I'm going to overcome my receivers dropping the ball.
But where were they? Where were they in terms of drops? Do you know where they were in the league wide?
Let's find out.
Or are you just talking out your ass?
I'll get back to you on that.
Let's run through. While Mike fixes the audio, just for background. So Mahomes obviously is 1, Burrow's 2. Earl, do we have graphics of this, or do you want me to just read it?
No, we don't have any graphics of it.
I'll just read it real quick. Mahomes is 1, Burrow is 2, Josh Allen was 3, Aaron Rodgers was 4, Justin Herbert was 5.
Wait a minute, who's number 1?
The Packers.
Thank you. Give me that. Give it back. That's all you need to see.
Okay. By the way, it's 30 passes dropped.
I rest my case.
That's less than 2 per game.
I rest my case.
That's less than 2 per game.
The defense rests.
We got Mike back. Mike, you hear us?
Yeah, I got
Mike, we're arguing over. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was able to get into your settings on here and pick the right microphone, so I think we're good.
We're arguing over Aaron Rodgers, and little surprised that he fell as high as, or climbed as high as he was. Were you surprised at all that Rodgers was as high as he was?
No. So you have to remember, I've been doing this for 10 years, so I'm talking to these guys all the time. And if you go back to the end of the Mike McCarthy era where their offense just wasn't looking as good, something was wrong, and you started to have a lot of people in the media kind of saying Rodgers has lost a step. There were articles about it. And I remember when I talked to the people that I used in this survey at that time, they still put him like almost unanimous tier 1. They stood by Rodgers. So I thought they were going to all stand by him again after this last season in Green Bay. But 20 of them deserted. 20 of them put him in tier 2.
Wow.
So he, before this year, in 10 years of doing this, I guess 9 previous years, he had gotten 401 out of 408 votes in tier 1. Like almost no one ever gave him a tier 2.
Wow.
Now he gets 20 out of 50 in tier 2. So there's definitely some questions in people's minds. But I think it's very similar to Brady leaving New England. When he left New England, same thing happened to him. You know, he was sort of tired of the Patriots.
Oh, why just say that? Tyvis is
The
gloating
offense
over
looked
here.
bad. The offense looked bad, you know, and everyone was writing off, not everyone, but a lot of people were like downgrading Tom Brady. Hey, he's 40, whatever.
Yeah.
This is when it falls off. And so, you know, Brady went to a really good Tampa team with great weapons and a really good defense, probably a little bit better situation than Rodgers is going to, right? With a proven offensive coach and all of that, to where now Rodgers is coming in, you know, with a little bit of the same chip on his shoulder, something to prove. I'm not sure if it's as good around him, but it's pretty good. He could have a bounce back.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Are
you done gloating over there?
I'm just saying, I'm available for the Athletic if they need a piece. I want to talk about Josh Allen. You know, Josh Allen I think he led the league in picks last year. You know, and now that he doesn't have, that was his first season without Brian Daboll. You know, does he still look like he's one of them top tier guys? He's on the front of Madden this year. You know, that curse does play
He's
a part.
third overall in the list.
Yeah.
So Josh Allen is the only guy in 10 years of doing this who has been in the survey at least 5 times and improved every year. And he actually went up a little bit from last year to this year, which was, you know, didn't feel like he had necessarily a better year. What happened was Burrow just went past him anyway. Burrow went up more. Josh Allen has really settled in there. I didn't get a ton of concerns on him. I mean, I think the addition of Dalton Kincaid is probably really big for him. I know that he's made some, you know, waves in camp, and the podcast that I do every week with Randy Mueller, the football GM, Randy's a huge fan of the Kincaid addition. So I think that will probably help him. You know, you may have some longer term concerns with how much he runs. You know, that you can hit a wall physically. I mean, I think Cam Newton did at a certain point. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen's a long way from that happening, but I think ideally he would probably learn when to say when a little bit with his body and with some of the trying to do the spectacular throws. Maybe he got a little too much of that last year, just a little bit.
Mike, let's talk about Deshaun Watson, who's obviously a polarizing guy to the fans, to media, probably to executives as well. You look at, he got 1 tier 1 vote, 31 tier 2 votes, 17 tier 3, and 1 tier 4. He finishes 11th overall. If I were voting, I would vote him tier 2 with the potential to be tier 1, but he's got to show it for the first time in 3 years. Yeah. You write here that only Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, and Matthew Stafford suffered greater year-over-year drops. What are all these people saying? What's the general consensus about Deshaun Watson and his ability to bounce back this year?
The general consensus was he looked shockingly bad last year, but there was a long layoff, so clearly that had to have something to do with it. And then with all of the energy that Shirley was going into battling those lawsuits and all of that and what was going on in the media, that probably was a contributing factor to his focus. So I think is an expectation that he's not going to be like less of an athlete. I mean, he should be better, but it was bad enough. It looked bad enough that, like, I think people want him to prove it. They're not just, you know, taking it to the bank for sure that he's going to come back and be what he was before.
I'm just curious. Do you talk to the same people every year for this, or does it ever change? I mean, I know guys change roles and come and go from the league.
It's definitely a churn. You know, I think the first year I did it in 2014, I think I only had 26 people because my network wasn't as big. And then one year we went up to 55, and I finally said, let's bring it down to 50. So I would say there's, you know, I would think half of them probably carry over from the last year to the next, but then as you get more and more years removed, right, it's just a different mix. I try to have I really am conscious of like how many people in each position I get, right? I'm shooting for, okay, I got 8 GMs this year, 10 head coaches, 15 coordinators, and sure, there's probably 5 people who've done it all 10 years, something like that, you know, but there's a good mix of turnover.
What surprised you this year? Anything?
Yeah, so I was a little surprised, like I said, that Rodgers came down as much. I thought they've been so unwavering towards him. I was a little surprised that Stafford didn't fall a little more. Mm-hmm. I thought people might write him off a little more than they did. I was a little surprised that Kirk Cousins moved up some. I was like, what do we have to learn about Kirk Cousins? But, he did tie an NFL record with 8 fourth-quarter comeback wins last year, so maybe that helped him just inch up. I thought people would be harsher on Kyler Murray, with all the stuff that has come out, and, Patrick Peterson's criticized him. I thought there would be a little bit more of a dumping on him, but I think there was people understanding that it wasn't just him. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in the Arizona organization, and maybe he was one of the better things they had going for him. So
just for clarity, those are all the guys around Deshaun. Stafford was 10, Deshaun 11, Kirk Cousins was 12, and Kyler Murray was 13. So those are all sort of clumped together.
I was surprised, Mike. I was surprised that 11 people, I think it was 11, still voted Russell Wilson, who Tyvis hates and played with.
I don't hate that man.
That voted him a tier 2 quarterback. And to me, another thing on the list, I was surprised. Maybe I'm a little prisoner of the moment, but I was surprised that Lamar Jackson was ahead of Trevor Lawrence, because I would definitely take Trevor Lawrence over Lamar Jackson going forward.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Lamar's a little bit of a surprise to me because we would all agree Lamar kind of had a bad year last year, right? I mean, last year did not help Lamar's standing, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, but last year Lamar's average was 2.00 on the dot. This year he's 1.94. Like, he actually got a tiny bit better. Now, like I said, we have a little different mix of people, so he's essentially was unchanged. And I thought that he might sink a little off last year, but there's an interesting mix of kind of hope and fear for him. The hope is, hey, you know what? They got some receivers now. They're going to run more of a passing offense. He will have a chance now to show once and for all that he can pass the ball better. But then there's also kind of a fear of like, yeah, but what if he's not as good at it as they hope, right? That what if he really does need it to be set up around the run like it has been? And what if he now is a little bit exposed, right? So through those two waves of opinions, I think he just sort of stayed where he was.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Well, since we're talking about all the quarterbacks in the AFC North, I'll just talk about Kenneth Pickett. What is your thoughts on him? They went out and got Allen Robinson. He turned a lot of heads last year towards the end of the season. Can they be a playoff team with him at the quarterback position?
Let me check. Is Mike Tomlin still coaching the team? So, there's more than Kenny Pickett to this thing. I think here's what's the takeaway on Pickett. Pretty high floor. People are confident that he's going to be a solid starting quarterback, and that he checks a lot of the boxes that aren't the boxes that I'm a special traits player, right? So people aren't seeing a ceiling for him of being special and climbing up and threatening tier 1, but I do think they feel like he'll at least be a solid tier 3 quarterback. Maybe he's an upper tier 3 quarterback. If you look at upper tier 3, lower tier 2, Cousins is in that range, Derek Carr's in that range, Jared Goff's in that range. Maybe he can be like that.
One guy I'm fascinated about, Mike.
Baker.
Baker stinks. He's not even worth talking about. But
you rogue.
Is Brock Purdy. He finished as the number 1 guy in tier 4 ahead of Baker. And I saw there was one guy that picked him as a tier 2 quarterback. I thought he looked fantastic, but it was such a small sample size. Yeah. I know the tendency is to think, well, it's only a few games. He was a late pick, but, maybe he's I'm not saying he's going to be Tom Brady, but maybe he's the next Kirk Cousins, solid quarterback that was drafted late. Well, I'm curious, especially the guy whoever it was that voted him tier 2, thoughts on Brock Purdy.
Yes. So, when I give these guys their ballots, I define what the tiers are. And the definition of tier 4 is you could be two things. One, not enough information. Like even Mahomes, after his first year, he only had one start. A lot of people just gave him a 4. We don't have any idea. Right. And then the other thing you could be as a 4 would be like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Hey, we don't really think we want you to start the whole year, right? You're solid, but you're not really a full year starter. So in the case of Brock Purdy, he got a lot of 4s of not enough information.
Right.
I do think that, just the way he handled the situation and coming onto a good team, playing extremely efficiently, it wasn't too big for him. It wasn't too fast for him. That part impressed the people that leaned towards tier 3 or the one guy who went to tier 2. The reason a lot of people weren't willing to go there, in beyond just the fact that it was a small number of games, was you're in an extremely favorable situation with Kyle Shanahan, talent all over on offense, and then you have a very high margin for error because you have a top 5 defense. So if you don't have a good game or a good series, it doesn't matter. We'll come back the next drive and the score is going to be the same, right? We're not down by 14. And then you would say there's no apparent elite traits, right? And I think as you look at a lot of these guys in the top 2 tiers, they have something special beyond, like if the play doesn't go to plan, like Josh Allen might make a better play, right?
Right.
Pat Mahomes might make a better play. Jalen Hurts might make a better play. Lamar might make a better play. Even Trevor Lawrence, good athlete, might make a better play. And when you start getting into some of these mid guys, Jared Goff's not really making a better play. Is Brock Purdy making a better play, right? What did he do other than sit in the seat of a Ferrari and drive it competently, right? That's kind of where the people would be that weren't going to give him a lot of credit.
Daniel Jones, you've got at 19. Mm-hmm. That seems low given his money, but it seems
all quarterbacks get paid.
Yeah, I know. But you wrote in there that he made one of the biggest leaps in all the tiers.
Yeah.
Just what do you think about Daniel?
So I think if this was Daniel Jones' rookie year and we didn't know anything else about him, I think he would probably come in with a little more optimism, right? Like, hey, that's a pretty good first year. He kind of has to overcome the fact that there was a couple years of not so good, and then the credit gets distributed to Brian Daboll, right? Yeah. It's like Tua's in this situation too. Like you're in an unusually bad situation to start your career. The questions people have about you are amplified. And then something dramatically other than you changes, a coach or weaponry or something, and now you don't get the full credit for looking better. Yeah. And I think that's what happens with Daniel Jones. He has to kind of overcome. It takes more than 1 year to overcome, and he probably just has to build on it with like, hey, they got some weapons now, year 2. Does he make another jump? And if he does, I think, where you sort of feel he might deserve to be now might be where he is, right? Towards the top of tier 3 or maybe threatening 2.
Yeah, I think the same thing for 2. I think you're right. The only defense I would have of Daniel Jones, even though I don't think I think he's not that good, but my one defense of him would be, unlike Tua, he has, Barkley's obviously a great player, but in terms of wide receivers and tight ends, he's had no talent around him.
They got hurt last year.
None.
Yeah,
absolutely none. So I don't think people understand. Like people give him credit. He's a big guy and he's a really good athlete. I mean, the guy can really run. So he does have that going for him, and that can kind of help you when some of those other things, aren't there. But I think he will be judged more this year as a passer because it was really conservative last year, and I think people did understand that was a function not just of him. That's a function of what they add on offense. It was nothing. So it's a big year for him. I think it's a big year for him to be able to make a jump.
Mike, let me ask you about a quarterback that I played with. He's one of the most winningest quarterbacks in NFL history. His name is Jimmy Garoppolo. And now that he's with the Las Vegas Raiders, he's got Devontae Adams. What are they saying about him? What's your thoughts on him in this season?
Okay, so you might appreciate this. Like, he's going to be with Josh McDaniels, and he knows the McDaniels offense, right? So you might be inclined to think this is a great fit. I'm not saying it's a bad fit, but it could be a fit that asks more of the quarterback than the fit he had in San Francisco, especially for a team that over the last decade is last in the league in defense and special teams. So there's going to be just ask Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr is a mid quarterback who doesn't win because he doesn't have what Jimmy G had in San Francisco. And so if you look at the last 5 years, the 49ers are 6th statistically on defense special teams. The Raiders are 32nd. The top 8 teams the last 5 years all have winning records. Doesn't matter who quarterbacks them. The bottom 8 teams, all losing records except the team with Rodgers, the team with Mahomes, the team that had Rivers and Herbert, the top tier quarterbacks. So if we think that Jimmy is probably a high tier 3 quarterback, what does it mean for him when you go to a team that is bottom 8 in defense and special teams? It means you don't win like you did in San Francisco. There's no way he's going to win 70% or whatever he did. It's going to be different and harder for him now.
Mike, one more quarterback I want to ask you about. Obviously, the Ohio State ties here, Justin Fields.
Go Bucks.
You have him
overrated.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Overrated.
Don't do that.
You're killing Tyvis.
Sorry, he's overrated.
No, he's not.
Mike can only run. He has no pass.
Can we let Mike talk about that?
Mike knows he can't pass. Go ahead, Mike.
You got him as a low tier 3.
Well, okay, so he also came into a terrible situation, right? Bad team, not a lot around him. He's had a couple of coaches, showed for sure that he's got the athleticism and can run. I think everybody trusts that he's smart and has the head screwed on straight, like he's a worker. He's going to try to get better. So he's got that going for him. Now, I think there's a change in attitude towards a player like him who obviously has issues passing. He's not a good passer yet because there has been a path blazed in the last few years. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. They're 2 guys that were really good with their legs and really squared away, like with their approach and stuff. They're professionals, and they have grown as passers. And when people didn't think accuracy improves, right? Oh, your accuracy if you can't pass it, you can't throw it straight, you'll never be able to. Those guys have shown you can do it. So I think there is more hope now for Justin Fields as they get him a couple weapons, and he kind of finds his bearing in the league, that he can get better in that regard too. Doesn't mean he's going to, and if he doesn't, he's going to have a hard time rising in this because he was rough around the edges, with his passing.
Where is he rated on that list?
He's 20.
What do you got him? 20. I just had it up. 20.
Yeah, let me just grab it right here.
I got it right here. 21.
21 is overrated.
He's overrated by you and Brad Sellers. Go ahead, Earl. You got a question?
Quick.
No, he's the one guy in tier. He's the one guy.
Hang on. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say he's clearly the guy in tier 3 who has the ability to go really high.
Sure.
Of all those guys in tier 3 because of his ability, and he's young.
Put your finger down, Tyvis.
Go ahead, Earl.
Hey, Mike, I was just going to ask real quick before we wrapped up. Of the rookie quarterbacks that was drafted in the first round, the C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young, which of those guys can you see possibly being a tier 4, tier 3 quarterback next year when this list comes out?
That's a good question. Well, I think they're all going to play a lot. That's really a good question. I think C.J. Stroud has it tough because if you look at their schedule and what he's got around him, I kind of like him a lot, but I feel like it's going to be hard for him. Maybe it's Bryce Young because of the division that he's in, but I think it's going to be rough out of the gates for the young guys. Maybe Anthony Richardson has an advantage because of his running. He may be able to, kind of stabilize things that way. But I think it's hard to come in right away and take the mantle and be expected to just get it all down and produce.
Mike, great stuff. Great job with the list as always. We appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.